my second and last presentation. Let's open with a word of prayer.
Vamos a orar.
Holy God, we thank you
Dios del cielo,
for the privilege
agradecemos
of life and health and strength.
por el privilegio de la vida, de la salud y de la fuerza.
As we see what's happening all around us, may we not become acclimatized to it,
Si nos quedamos acostumbrados con lo que pasa a nuestro alrededor.
just because we participate in these final events.
Solo porque participamos de estos eventos finales.
Help us to remember our role as observers, as students of prophecy,
Ayúdanos a lembrarnos nuestro rol
so
como
that we can
estudiantes de la
remain
profecía,
objective as we walk with you and you reveal the truth to us. In Jesus' name. Amen. Pedro, if you can pull a chair up the front here, next to Elisa. Say. I want to welcome everybody back. In our last presentation, maybe over there, because you're going to spill into her mic, I think. We spoke about the movement's experience over the past 4 years, beginning from 2021, Boston, through Concord, Exeter, into the Sunday Law. We all are aware that there are different thoughts and ideas of the events connected to these 4 waymarks. The purpose of my 2 presentations was not to expose the strengths or weaknesses of any particular study. I think the people who have those studies, it's for them to do that work. It was not my purpose to defend the actions that I've taken, as various studies have been exposed or not promoted. As always, especially under my leadership, people have concerns that they've been unfairly treated. Please speak to me. We're in a public setting, and if a concern is about bad behavior or mistreatment, please put it as a question and we'll try to address it this weekend. So we didn't end up discussing the presentations in detail. We worked out that I'd done 122 presentations over the past 4 years. And I wanted to do a few things. Primarily, I want us to begin to consider how we define doctrine. Having stated that goal, that purpose, we went through an exercise to look at the 4 waymarks that are on the board. And I used the word consensus. I interchanged that with the phrase movement position to ask where people stood with regard to these various waymarks. Of the 4, the one we didn't look at was the beginning, Boston. That was only because of a lack of time. And I don't think we're going to have time to do that now either. We began with Concord and then discussed Exeter and the Sunday Law. And I took a representative group from amongst us, several whom are leaders and some who are just members, and asked them their thoughts about these various waymarks. If you missed the first study, I just refer you back to it. When we spoke about Concord, there seemed to be a consensus amongst, there were 7 then, and now there are 9. Of what Concord was, both internally and externally. So I want to, because someone asked me during the break, so I want to be clear. Just because 7 random members coalesce to a common understanding that does not mean that that is now a movement position. Because someone said, is that the new movement position? And no one told me before now. Because it would be poor leadership, maybe not poor behavior on the part of a messenger, because they have a habit of dumping information upon the movement. But organizationally, it wouldn't be a good thing to do. To get 7 or 9 random people that all agree on the subject and say, now it's a movement position. So I want us to be clear on that. There was a consensus amongst them, but it doesn't mean it's a movement position. And I was only referring to Concord, because of the 3 waymarks, that's the one that they all seem to agree on. One of those participants had an additional piece of information, which was regarding the warfare between the King of the North and the King of the South. We'll see it here. You should all be familiar with what's on the board. I didn't go back and ask the others, but I don't think this is some kind of extreme understanding that there were these two events. The invasion, part 2 of Ukraine. Part 1 was 2014. And the SCOTUS case of Dobbs v. Jackson. And what the person explained was that those two events, those secular external events, actually line up to the month with their views of the internal concord. Which were Elder Tess's Vesper studies. February to June 2022. So I'm not about to make that into a movement position just because certain members said it to be. But if I'm not going to do that, how do we move forward? That's the question that each of us should consider for ourselves. I do want to add that when we speak about concord, I ask the opinion of these members. They all gravitated or coalesced to the same external event, that is the same event that Elder Terry had chosen for concord. You're on the same page? Pedro, what do you have for concord? Your best one. When you say 2, Blessing gave a model where he had 2, but they were tied together. If you mean something like that, sure. But if it's just 2 different thoughts, then no. What's your understanding of concord? So Pedro has said it's Dobbs v. Jackson, June 2022. Emma? So we have consensus of 10 people. Ten people. 9 in this room. And Elder Terry. Good. So I'm not saying that defines doctrine. But what I would want to do now, I'm not saying this is now the way things happen. And I'm not saying we do it in this meeting. But I want to invite people to either for the Q&A or to me privately, tell me if you have a competing understanding of concord. We then went on to Exeter, and we had, it went from 7 opinions only down to 3. People are less clear about Exeter. And think Elder Terry's on public record to say that she's not sure what Exeter is. You'll see that two of the opinions for Exeter were internally were Elder Terry's studies on the subject. I'm going to say that because I said it wrong. Of the three people that gave an opinion for Exeter, all of them said that internally it was Elder Terry's studies. And it's difficult for someone to testify on their own behalf. So if we'd asked Elder Terry her opinion, she couldn't have said it was my great study. You see the difficulty there. But we have three thoughts there that all say it's related to Trump. And two of them say it's the RNC convention. Hedra? Exeter. So if you're going to say July to November, I'd like to know what the event is. You can bookend it. If I understand you correctly, you're saying Exeter is the RNC convention and it occurs over a period of time ending in November. So that's three people. Emma? Don't look at other people's opinions. If you don't have one, don't make it up now. Okay. And then we went to the Sunday law. And we had varying opinions. Emma? Sunday law. Don't even look at the board. You don't know. Pedro? So I have after January 2025. Is that good enough for you? Or you're saying, 1 second. Is after January 2025 good enough? Or are you saying January? Okay, so you'd say Sunday law begins in January. And Arian said it begins after January. So it's a different view. So it's January 2025. Okay, so we have several people who disagree with Elder Terry's study. I think we all agreed that the line that we have on the board is Boston, Concord, Exeter. What we didn't place on this line, which I think we all know, I've done this in the past and people don't seem to like it. So tell me if this is wrong or illegal. So we have 2021. I call this Concord. I won't put the date. Exeter. And we said shut door. which is the Sunday law. So are we okay to call this? I was going to put 2DF, sorry. Time of the end, the increase of knowledge, the formalization, and then I just call it again, I guess, close of probation. Are we happy to do that? It's this one that people complain about, calling it the time of the end. Anyone in the front object to that? That's okay? Legal? Okay. So if that's the line that we have for our current dispensation, based upon either your experience of other histories or your own personal thoughts, I'm not asking about the events now. What I'm asking about is what you would expect the nature of these waymarks to be. Their properties. So when I say their properties, don't come up with an event. It's more of a sort of a symbolic or esoterical idea that I want us to see. Time of the end. What do you see, Catherine? New message arrives. New message arrives. New message arrives. New message. New message. New message. Message. Okay, so everybody said new message. I'm going to say, if this is the line or the reference point, I'm going to say you see nothing. We have a message. I'm not arguing that we don't have a message, but we see nothing. I can say it that way. And the only reason we can see something, for all of you said that there's a new message, why can you see a new message in 2021? I know it's eternally. How come you can even see a message in 2021? Curtis? So the reason you can see a message at 2021, before I say what Curtis said, we'll do another line. And this is now 1989. And what can you see now? No, 1798, if you prefer. Sorry? Nothing. I'm just going to go nothing all the way along. Unless someone objects. You don't see anything. And the only reason you can see something at this time of the end, because it's a fake time of the end. It's not real. I use the word fake as a stretchy term. Because you have the same problem with 2014 2019, 2021. They are not real Sunday laws. They're fake Sunday laws, if you like. That's why you can see something, and they all said that there's a message. Because that message is a transition point between the end of the priests and somewhere into the line of the 144. Increase of knowledge. What do you expect to see? Okay, so let's think about the world. I know we've got a message. Maybe I should have been clearer. What do you see? We see two groups forming. Curtis? You can see events begins to shape this dispensation. Beginning to? He said visible in a public way, which is not the same as beginning to. So I'll give you another go. What happens at increase of knowledge? So I'll help him. What had already begun, time at the end, is now visible. Is that good? Yeah. So we've got beginning and visible, and we've connected them together. What was the point I was trying to make there, Blessing? Based upon what Curtis has said incorrectly. That it's a continuation, that it's not the beginning. The marker is what? You said? That you can see it. Okay, Tamina? There's an increase in awareness. Why is there an increase in awareness? We'll leave the increasing awareness. There's a controversy. That's it. Property of the increase of knowledge. What would you see as a property that it? Sorry? Yes, I'm not worried about what the message is, or the event. So the only thing we've got so far is that you can see it. So Tamina said seeing in another way. She said awareness. You're aware of something. She's added controversy or something. I'm not worried about the event. So this one had seeing and awareness. That's some detail, or is that specific? You're always going to have two groups. Okay. Two groups agreeing. Two groups aren't agreeing with each other. But you have two groups that come into independent agreement. Did I get that correct? Yes. Okay. So that's an important thing that you're going to see. So we've got, you will see, you will become aware that two groups are forming or have formed. Have formed. If we used forming, where's that? Time of the end. So I know I'm laboring an obvious point, but I want us all to be on the same page at this very simple level of how we define or conceptualize these waymarks. The beginning of the increase of knowledge is the time of the end. You can't see anything, but things begin. And what's beginning is a concord. By the time you get to the increase of knowledge, you can see, or there's the awareness that the two groups have formed. That's not to say there's a conclusion. You had your hand up, Tamina? You want to go back? The message is something that we say about what's happening. Agree with that? Which is the same thing as saying awareness. It's not an understanding of the message. It's an understanding of what? That two groups exist. Because that's what the message is. I want us to be clear on that. It's not an understanding of the message. It's not 1,000 people understanding what Elder Tess is saying. It's this movement, however many it is, all of you, or Elder Tess, but it is Elder Tess, looks at what's going on, sees two groups, becomes aware of it, and that's what the increase of knowledge is. Are you okay to explain it that way? Listen. Oh, have we already did it? Okay. Monica? Internal, I'm not worried about internal. Because you and I are friends, and I'm not going to say, oh, we're at the increase of knowledge because we like each other. Okay. You're not sure? So my question is, do you agree with what's here, or you don't know what increase of knowledge is? You need to be precise with your language if possible. I don't know gets you out of huge issues. Okay, so you agree that it's seeing two groups formed. So you've said beginning, which means you don't agree with that's on the board. Okay, Arian? One second, because they won't hear it. So Arian agrees with what's already been said, and then he came up with an example. And the example that you gave was what? So I have see here, and Arian said heard. And what was heard was a shot. I'll say all of what he said. A shot around the world. And he borrowed that from a previous dispensation. And what was significant, what is significant here? The word, which word is significant? It's not here. The world. Yep. Justina. Nothing? Nothing? Okay. So formalization, which is Exeter. Catherine. Properties of Exeter. Do we all understand why I'm saying externally? Because you can't base this line on your own warm, mushy feelings that you're having, or some spiritual experience you're going through. It's all about the events. And I want the properties of that. Policy laid out. So I was going to put formalized, but I won't. Oh, that doesn't make any sense. So I'll just put, as you said, policy. A policy statement. And that is nothing to do with the movement. So I can't write everything down. The policy statement is what you're seeing. All good? Curtis? Don't know. Don't know what that means. The two groups that are formed at the increase of knowledge, when we get to the formalization, their ideology or their belief system gets solidified, which is dangerously close to formalized. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Catherine, that's the same as a policy statement. Yep. Okay. So the words that you said was? Their beliefs solidify. That was all part one? Okay, part two? So their beliefs are solidify, and then you see action. So we'll put an I there. You can see action. Tamina? So Tamina said two information streams. And where do we see two information streams? Catherine? At the increase of knowledge. It says right on the board. Two streams who independent or agree with themselves. So that's not going to be for It's not a marker for formalization. If you don't have another one, we'll move on. You have the first one because that one wasn't one. So Curtis said action, and Tamina said ready to take action. Is that what you said? Ready to take action. So they're different. You want to stay with that. So it might be wrong. That's why you might not want to. Okay, so Tamina says one of the characteristics of the formalization is a readiness to act, a preparation. I like that, a preparation to act. And Curtis said, it's too late. You're already acting. Because Curtis is going to put the preparation where? At the increase of knowledge. If I put words into his mouth. To mean that you're one step back so that we're aware of what's going on. Blessing. A characteristic of the formalization. There's a visibility of something of something that's about to happen. Is that the same as readiness? Okay. Visibility of a future thing, of something in the future. Okay. And you said that's not readiness for the future. You said visibility of the future is the same as action. So I'm confused, and I think others are confused. How getting ready for the future and action happen at the same time. So explain what you mean simply for us. So these people, this group, sees that something's going to happen and they begin to do what? They begin to act. And the acting is what? The steps that bring you to what this future thing's going to be. Okay, so people are going to take action because they're seeing something in the future. Just want to be clear. Who's doing the seeing? The people are doing the action. Yes, he said yes. Monica? It gets harder the further you go down. Sorry, Pedro. So you recognize that. I try to do it the other way too. Arian. Everything is happening at that waymark. Everything. Yes, we understand the context of that, but everything is happening. You can see the language gets stronger as we go down. What? Okay, everything is happening. I want to suggest that when Blessing said, you take action because you have visibility of something in the future, that's, if not the same, it's very close to everything is happening. Dinner? Okay, nothing more to add? Emma? Okay, so Emma used the word entrenched. Can you just define what entrenched means? Settled. So the two sides are now settled. Firm. Okay. I want to ask you a question. Formalization. Give it a proper name. Different, not proper. Give that waymark its proper name. You don't not invent one, please don't invent one. No, X is on the board. Formalization is on the board. Not test. Nope. Did someone shout something? The loud cry. They helped you. The loud cry. Okay, so we've shifted away when we talk about the loud cry, because the loud cry is us. When we said see, nothing, etc., that's us. And now we're crying. Yep. Oh, did you have anything to add to the formalization or Exeter, whatever? Okay, I'm going to say no then. We'll go this way then to help you. What are we crying about? We cry. That's us. What are we crying about? Sins of Babylon. Just, I'm not being rude, but that's not a good answer. Emma? So Emma says we're crying about what we've seen. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to redo this. Do you understand why that was not a good answer, Pedro? Now that you've heard Emma's answer, which I'm not saying is correct, but contextually, it's an appropriate answer. See the difference? If you want another go ahead. So Emma says at the loud cry, we look backwards. That's what you said, Emma? We look backwards. Do you want to say anything, Pedro? You don't know? Okay. Did you say something? You tell me. You look backwards and forwards. Think about that. Justina, what is the loud cry? What are you crying about? You're crying about what you've seen. Arian? So Arian said it's about now, not the past. Right now. The future. So Monica says the future. So I don't know if we've exhausted all of our options. Past, present, and future. We should be worried that we're halfway through and we've got all the answers and they're all different. So either I'm manipulating people or we don't understand what the loud cry is. And I'm doing my utmost not to manipulate what people are saying. Because either someone's going to say at the end, oh, you look back, you look now, you look in the future. Which isn't particularly helpful, I don't think. Blessing. Property of the loud cry. Sorry? What you now? What you have seen. Sorry? Future. So let's try and stick to the terms. I'm gonna go back. Why are you crying now, Blessing, and not crying before? You're crying about what you saw in the past because you saw it in the past. Increase the knowledge. Why weren't you crying then? Why wait? Not enough pain? Not enough death? Why you wait? Why did you wait? No one would listen. Crying and listening are two people. If you don't listen to me, half of the people are not listening to me in this group, so I'm not going to talk. You wouldn't agree with that. This movement exists. And how many Levites are listening? We'll just say none. So we just shut up then. So you don't believe it's because no one's listening. Okay. Another answer. Why did you not shout before? Because you saw it before. Have a think, Curtis. No. Now. Catherine? Future. Okay, so the cry. So we've got three things. We're at the loud cry, and everything is happening. There's some policy statement that's been put out that you can see. You can download the PDF and read it. Now you know that their beliefs have solidified. They've taken action because they produced a document. There's a readiness. No, I'll leave the readiness out. There's a visibility of what's about to happen. Everything is happening. And the sides are now entrenched in their position. So we have that. And now or in a minute? Tabo, now or in a minute? Now? Is it you want to speak now? Okay, now then. What are you referring to? That's what I'm not sure what you're referring to. Here. Or here. This one? Okay, so before you make your comment, Tabo's going to comment on this. So that we're clear, we have a cry, which is us. We're crying about external events. And some people are saying, today, we're now going to cry about what has happened already. My question was, why are you crying today and not before? Others are saying, we're crying about what's going on now. And others are saying, we're now going to cry about what's happening in the future. And for those who said what's going to happen in the future, my question is, one person shout out. What? Go then. No, go. Blessing. I didn't hear what. Okay, so that was my question, not how you know. Why now? Why are you crying now and not before? So it's the same question in reverse. Maybe there's a good answer, maybe there isn't. Okay, Elder Tabo. We don't do we know we don't do that in our class, in our study. So half the ones in front of you are wrong. So when we look at other cries in other dispensations, is it Exeter, Millerite Exeter? The original Exeter? The cry is happening at that moment, at that waymark. So the cry was related to the past, which is this one looking back. And about the future. I said someone would do this. Give us a now. The now that's on this board is about the events now. So if you're going to do the past and the future, if you can say they're now crying about the events now, if you go to Millerite history. Just help us. What's the future that they're crying about? Good. 10th of the not good. 10th of the 7th month. And what's the past that they? Okay. 0419. And what waymark is that? 419. Is that time of the end or increase of knowledge in this language? This language. Where's April the 19th on this line? Time of the end. That's good. That's what I thought. So this is the start and this is the end. Okay. Will anybody want to comment? Curtis? So another property that we haven't looked at about the loud cry which three waymarks? 2, 3, and 4, or 1, 2, and 3? Okay, so one of the properties of the loud cry that tie in number 1 and number 2, and obviously number 3, is so what Curtis wants to remind us is that, like light, we have two models. We have two models of our lines. One of them are punctuated waymarks, and the other one is this dotted line or this swelling. That's what you're saying? And the swelling goes right to the end. Yes? And the point being what? So what Curtis says is the message is the same. The subject, we'll call it the subject, which is the event. It starts and it ends, and it's the same all the way through. There's no difference, which is what I think Elder Tabo was trying to suggest when he said you look back and you look forward. Oh, did I say something wrong? All good? Okay. So I don't want to put words into his mouth, but I think that's what he's put here, which is what Emma had said as well, is this dotted line. The message is both looking back and looking forward. If we're okay with that, oh, have I missed something? One more little bit then, because we run out of time. So I'm not going to repeat that yet. I'm going to repeat in my own words. So we're going to look back and we're going to look forward. At the increase of knowledge, when you see something that's already begun, and you see it's going to get, it will increase, if I can put it that way, escalate. So if we get this idea that we have a duality of models, then we have this idea that you both look back and you look forward. Do that. You'll always look back and you'll always look forward. So I want us to see what Elder Tower put here is correct. And the question is, why the cry now? Why not before? It's not that we're not talking, but there's a cry that happens. Okay, Pedro. It's either that subject or something else. You had your hand up. Ah. What did I put? Tell me what to put here. I need to put July here. Okay. Okay. That's my mistake, not his then. Okay. All right. Okay. So it is referring back to April, the disappointment. I think what Pedro was doing was correcting me, not you. Because the start I said was 2021, and he's saying that's actually Boston, which is July. Which so he's correcting me, not you. It's my bad. Yep, I understood it correctly. It's just a technicality. If I put start here, I'd have to put July. But when you said the disappointment, that really was the start. So my mistake. I'm going to change this to July. What? 21? July. I'm going to change it to July 21 so that it's consistent. But put it in the public record that it's pointing back to the disappointment and explaining that. Thank you. Emma. Okay, so two people were correcting my mistake. Justina. Why are we crying now? It is because. So Justina said, we're crying now. I don't want to put time into our thing, but we can see the end, what it will be. Who said everything? So that's what everything means. I think, without putting words in your mouth. So the everything is talking about what you expect to see based upon where it started is happening now. Anyone else? Curtis. Yes? Yes, you just repeated what you said already, so I've got that. No, so the back and the future, I believe I've answered that point from all the responses that I've had. At every single point, you're always going to look back and you're going to look forward. But you're not crying. I want us to be clear on that. At the increase of knowledge, you have knowledge about what? That you've reached, that the time of the end has happened, the message has begun. And at the time of the end, what was that message? A shut door is about to happen. So you're always looking, I've seen your hand, you're always looking in the past and the future. But now, because of what's going on at this moment, you now cry. And if you look at all these characteristics, I'm going to say there's only one marker because someone's put entrenched. But at the increase of knowledge at Concord, they're entrenched. There's consensus. They've coalesced to a common understanding or message. I know. So I want to suggest it's the everything. Everything that you're expecting at the shut door is now happening. And that's why you're crying. Okay, so whatever you said, Charity, is exactly what's already here. So we've run out of time, but I want to make this point now. I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm not critiquing anyone's study. But what I want us to see as you go back and review this study and the one before, first, collectively, me and the 8 and then the 10 people, when we acted all of this out, have we made any mistakes? Were we really careful to put everything correctly together? You have to decide that if you haven't already. And the reason why I'm saying that, depending on who you are, where you are, most of us believe we're here. If we're here, can you now see, if you hadn't seen it before, that you, me, we are in big trouble? Can you, without me telling you why yet, can you see why we're all in trouble? Something's gone really wrong. Because all of you, we, are actually saying we are where? We're here. The reason we're saying we're here between Concord and Exeter, someone said to me, I asked them, where's this Exeter thing going on? And you know what they said? It's a couple of people, so don't feel I'm targeting you. They said we have to dig it out. Can you see how wrong it is to conceptualize that you have to dig out the loud cry information? Based upon everything that we've said here, there's no digging to do. The event, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to manipulate terminology. The event is screaming out, is crying out. So it doesn't take any digging to know when Exeter is happening. That's what this study has shown. That's what it was designed to show. So you need to go back and see where we have made any mistakes. If we are here where that person is, we should know what Exeter is. It has to be so obvious. We cannot have, and I'm not saying we do, have a movement position. We can't say Dobb v. Jackson 2022. We've got a Sunday law message and we don't know what Exeter is because it's snuck its way into our consciousness. At least we can't say that easily. So we have to come up with an answer to what Exeter is. Can we all see the logic of that? Before you get excited and as we close, write your question down. But I believe, because if I'm thinking along the same way that you're thinking, Elder Terry has an idea what Exeter is. She just hasn't, for whatever reason, it's for her to explain, not me. She's chosen not to state it. Because I want us to see, how can you predict a shut door if you don't know that you're either at Exeter or you've passed it? If, so I'll put a big if, all of these characteristics that we have here are correct. If they're correct, 10 of us in this room think they are. Then you have to know what Exeter is in order to predict a Sunday law with whatever properties or nature that it has. Let's close with prayer. Holy God, we want to thank you that we can work together. I want to pray for all the speakers that have done their work. And the last speaker that we have to close off this camp, that you would be with them as you have been with the others. Help us to come to a clearer understanding of the line in which we live today. But even in the midst of the solemn events all around us, in the final days that we have together, may we find moments of joy, happiness, even of laughter. We thank you for all that's happening at this camp. Thank you for all the work that has been done and the work of those who serve us. Even now, while we are talking, many things are happening in the background. We ask that you would bless them and that you would give them comfort that their work is valued. And I want to add my thanks to you, Lord, for the work that Eden have done, and the personal sacrifices each one of those people have made, that none of us who are enjoying the blessings of this camp can even begin to appreciate and realize. Bless them as they have blessed us. Amen.